Constituents of tort. So, the law of tort is fashioned as an instrument for making people adhere to the standards of reasonable behavior and respect the rights and interests of one another. This it does by protecting interest and by providing for situations when a person whose protected interest is violated can recover compensation for the loss suffered by him from the person who has violated the same. By interest here is meant a claim, want, or desire of a human being or group of human beings seeks to satisfy and of which therefore the ordering on human relations in civilized society must take account. It is, however, obvious that every want or desire of a person cannot be protected, nor can a person claim that whenever he suffers loss, he should be compensated by the person who is the author of the loss. So, the law therefore determines what interest need protection and it also holds the balance when there is a conflict of protected interest. So, every wrongful act is not a tort. To constitute a tort, second, there must be a wrongful act committed by a person. Third, the wrongful act must be of such a nature as to give rise to a legal remedy. And last is that such legal remedy must be in the form of an action for unliquidated damages. Wrongful act. So, an act which prima facie looks innocent may become tortious if it invades the legal right of another person. In Rogers versus Rajendra Dutt, the court held that the act complained or should, under the circumstances, be legally wrongful as regards the party complaining. That is, it must prejudicially affect him in some legal right, merely that it will, however, directly do him harm in his interest is not enough. A legal right, as defined by Austin, is a faculty which resides in a determinate party or parties by virtue of a given law, and which avails against a party other than the party or parties in whom it resides. Rights available against the world at large are very numerous. They may be divided again into public rights and private rights. To every right corresponds a legal duty or obligation. It corresponds a legal duty or obligation. So, this obligation consists in performing some act or refraining from performing an act. Liability for tort arises, therefore, when the wrongful act complained of amounts either to an infringement of a legal private right or a breach or violation of a legal duty. Then there is damage. So, in general, a tort consists of some act done by a person who causes injury to another, for which damages are claimed by the latter against the former. In this connection, we must have a clear notion with regard to the words damage and damages. The word damage is used in the ordinary sense of injury or loss or deprivation of some kind, whereas damages means the compensation claimed by the injured party and awarded by the court. So, damages are claimed and awarded by the court to the parties. The word injury is strictly limited to an actionable wrong, while damage means loss or harm occurring in fact, whether actionable as an injury or not. The real significance of a legal damage is illustrated by two maxims, namely, damnum sine injuriae and injuria sine damno. So, damnum sine injuriae is a damage without injury, and injuria sine damno is an injury without damage. So, damnum sine injuriae, in this, there is a damage, but there is no legal injury, there is no violation of the legal right, and In injuries in damne, there is a legal injury, there is a legal right that is violated, but there is no damage. Then comes remedy. So the law of torts is said to be a development of a maxim obi jus ibi remedium, or there is no wrong without a remedy. If a man has a right, he must of necessity have a means to vindicate and maintain it, and a remedy if he is injured in the exercise or enjoyment of it. And indeed, it is a vain thing to imagine a right without remedy. Want of right and want of remedy are reciprocal. Where there is no legal remedy, there is no wrong. But even so, the absence of a remedy is evidence, but is not conclusive that no right exists. Thank you.